We are live. Hey guys, it's your girl Jay Sharon, and I have with me today Jeni, who is so phenomenal. So, a little bit of background about Jeni. Welcome. She is our first guest on Closet Confessions of the Ordinary Woman. So, I don't know what she's going to confess. I already told her she has to confess something. When my roommate comes on, my college roommate, she's like, "Oh, I got stories." I'm like, this isn't really about me confessing. This is more about you." But we'll live in the moment, I guess. So she is my first guest. Officially, we can hear each other, no technical difficulties. StreamYard has got us going live. So I'm super excited to have her today. She is, I'm going to call her a serial entrepreneur like myself. We start these businesses, we fall in love, and we find other businesses and we start them as well. She is a wife, she is a lover of Christ, and she is just a phenomenal woman who has overcome so much, in turn leading her to her passion. So Jeni, just tell us a little bit about you today, kind of what you're passionate about. Where do you want to start?
For sure. Born and raised Omaha, Nebraska, and I always joke about being from North Carolina because that's where one of my parents is from. But moved out to Phoenix we've been in Arizona a total of 4 years. Moved back to Omaha at one point right after we got married, but we're back. God's got some big stuff that we have to accomplish here in Phoenix, and so it's just really exciting. But yes, closet entrepreneur or whatever you'd said about being an entrepreneur. I just
Serial. You just keep
serial
starting businesses.
entrepreneur. Yeah. But yeah, when we'd met, there is some stuff going on, and so I just learned from that and grown from that. And that's kind of what's brought me to where I'm at now, But Jay was talking when we'd met about being how to network, and I didn't really know at the time that I was going to be moving. And so then when I did, I was like, oh, I need to figure out how to do this networking thing because I never had really done it being in a new state, in a city. And so I, at the time was dealing with a medical thing where I couldn't work. And so my business was the only opportunity to bring money in. And so I had no knowledge of really how to do this real business thing and set forth on this networking track and learned how to even learned what social media marketing was, or Google my business page and all of that, and just really learned from the ground up. And so that has allowed me to be successful in the manner that I have been, with my businesses, understanding how to use those multiple streams to connect with people, that are interested in what you are in business for.
So it's so crazy you say that when we met is when you were considering networking. And now, because I don't know anything about SEO. So she's talking about search engine optimization and how you market yourself in these platforms. I definitely am a novice at that. I need to definitely learn it. When someone went to look for my book on Amazon, she was like, it is buried so deep among these kids' books. If I didn't know what I was doing in marketing to search for it, she's like, no wonder nobody can find your book. People just happen to like my book and refer it by word of mouth. So I think it is phenomenal that you moved to a different state, you connected with people, and not only that, you were able to get a skill set to expand and grow your business to a success. So also you said that you initially had a medical condition that allowed you not to be able to kind of work outside the home. Do you want to talk more about that?
Sure. So actually 6 years tomorrow, I was injured in a car accident, and at first it seemed pretty minor, and then really quickly it's progressed to a traumatic brain injury. And so for a while, for like 2 years, I didn't do anything besides being an entrepreneur just because I couldn't. My body could not. Um, And I remember at one point, multiple doctors, but one in particular had said, we'd done a child ed psychologist type of test on the education side. And it said, you're never going to be able to go back to school. You're never going to be able to work again. And I said, and my husband at that point had taught me how to really understand my faith, and understand like the things that were actually truly going for me. And so being very small in my faith at that point, I looked at her and I said, "I'm sorry, I just can't accept that." Because she said, your education level is about like the end of a first grade level. And so yeah, I mean, I was like, I said, "I'm sorry, but I was working full time, I was going to school full time, personal activities full time in addition to that."
So, like,
And
this full life, right? This
right.
this life that you had planned out, that you had this path, and then she's telling you your path is ending, and you're telling her, "No, that's not what I'm accepting. I don't agree with that. I need you to you that may be medically what you think, but I'm not coming into agreement." And I think that's important, that sometimes you cannot come into, I think there's facts and there's reports, but I feel like sometimes for your life, you cannot come into agreement with what everybody says the direction it's going, because sometimes we come into agreement with these things that aren't true. So no matter if you have this thing, it doesn't mean that I can't still go on to be great.
Right. And I just remember, and I didn't even understand like where I'm at now. Like, I didn't even understand the words I was telling her. Like,
Mm,
"I'm sorry, I just can't accept this," because I got so used to in those first 6 to 9 months of just being told, "You have this, you need this, and that," all the things. And so I finally was like, "No, no, no, no. Like,
I'm done.
I'll take the
We're done
services
here.
I need. I'll stand on my faith," again, not knowing what I was really saying, wholeheartedly where we're at now. And so she goes, "Well, you might be able to volunteer 20 hours for the rest of your life." And at the time, I think I was 26. Like, I just basically turned 26 the year before. And so that was a lot. So I just kind of created this make a way mindset, and I didn't understand. I never had been taught until my husband had taught me, the power of your words, whether you believe or not, like what that truly means.
Mm,
If you're pouring toxicity into your life, well, of course it's going to look like that.
right.
And so once I removed myself and said, "I don't think so," things started to change. So then, I've done different things. At first, I started out with very small jobs. I got to the point of, um, having the opportunity of working with a pretty big airline, and got to the second round interview and just decided we just gotten engaged. And I just decided being in the air all the time was, not how to start a marriage. But so I got up to that point, and then about a year ago, I had an opportunity shortly after we moved back to Arizona to really pave the way of what I wanted to do professionally in the workforce. And so I took a job with my already preset digital marketing background, because
Mhm,
of you.
mhm.
And I every time I think about it, it's insane that like the things that I've learned is because you'd suggested getting involved in a chamber of commerce or networking. And so, I taught myself Google My Business to help other businesses that I helped from ground up. And I started working with this company here to do small businesses, Google My Business, and local SEO sort of stuff for them full time, and continue to do, kind of small business stuff on the side for myself and whatnot. And then this summer, I just kind of started to feel not great. And we didn't know why. And in Arizona, there's a monsoon season. And so, the dust is blowing, the rain is coming, it's not like a hurricane in the South, but it's probably like without all the extra water, the wind. I mean, it's kind of like that, but not as big of a scale. And so I was like, I kept telling my husband, I'm sure it's just this, that, and the other, and then,
It's the weather. I feel it in my bones. People used to say, I just feel it's just the rain. The rain has got me aching. So you just feel it in your bones. It's just the aching.
so that's why I thought I was tired, and all these little things. And I mean, I just want to preface, I'd gone from what had happened 6 years ago and the way that it had impacted my life to be able to slowly regain my life back. And I think the biggest thing for me is can't even go any further in this without even saying, because I was healed with no medical assistance for the most part, especially the major things that needed to happen. And it was my faith, and my husband and I kept speaking over my body and believing. And that is 100%, how I was healed completely in our church here locally. Um, and I was still very new to like laying hands and understanding like the actual power of prayer and healing, supernaturally and in your body. And so I was called up. I was still having issues, all of the issues, about 2 years after the injury. And I just felt things changing in my body, like in a natural way that I couldn't explain before then.
Mhm.
I didn't understand that leading up to that. And then I did after because I literally felt bones in my back literally shift, and all of it just slowly fade away. And so then come to find out this August, I finally went into the doctor's office, because everything had been self-treated for so long. Uh,
Mhm.
they were saying that I now have post-concussive syndrome from the original injury for whatever reason. And a lot of neurologists that we've talked to say, it just doesn't make sense. So, but what's been cool out of that is cool in a sense, I guess, is being able to I had to step away immediately, very unexpectedly, which was a huge shift on our family. And I started Choose Joy and Smile. God spoke to us both about just being able to shift, that business perspective and being able to do that because it brings me joy. And when I start making these projects, I just can't stop. It lights a fire. And so, the whole time, from the start to now, we've always stuck a verse to, standing on healing. And so that's been about the woman of blood, and touching the hem. And so
Mm.
that's why my logo, represents the tallit, of her touching that hem and standing on that for healing. So,
Nice. So it sounds like your husband has been very impactful in your journey. So, guys, when I met Jenny, we neither one were married. Was I married? I don't
you
feel
were
like I was
married.
married. Was
Yeah.
I married? Michael, you didn't hear that. I was married. I was probably new to marriage then. I don't feel like we had been married long. Did I already have the kid? Well, if I was married, the kid was here.
Yeah, you had Braden, and you were probably married 2 years. I mean, because
It
this
was
was
new. I was about to say, I don't feel like it was long. So then Jenny wasn't married. I feel like you weren't married. Were you dating Cario then, though?
almost. We were on the brink of figuring out what we were doing with our lives.
So we were friends, you know what I mean? Trying to figure out if we were moving to the next phase,
Right.
which is always a fun but scary phase in dating, right? You're on the brink of I like you, I might like you more than just as the cartoon says, I might like you. You know what I mean? I think it's Hey Arnold that says, "Ooh, you like her. You like Helga likes
Well,
like
and
Arnold." You know what I mean?
we've known each other. We met each other in 2018 as Bible Day Camp uh, leaders.
Mm.
So like and a mentor of mine said this last week. She's like, you would talk about Cario before you guys were even like an item. Which is
Which
very
happens.
true.
And sometimes you don't even realize it. I definitely was friends with my husband in college. We did not date. We did not date at all. We knew each other 3 years, and we did not reconnect until we were both 26. We both just turned 26. He had turned it in April. I turned it in May. We reconnected at the end of that May. And then we dated, but I mean, I just, these things, I probably was fresh to marriage. And me and Jenny talk about this, recently, how you're growing up, how you are, who you are, you bring all of that into this marriage, right? But sometimes because of who you are, you don't really think that you do anything wrong. At least I didn't. Michael would do stuff would go down in our marriage. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. It ain't me. So you better figure it out. And so, who you are. And it sounds like in this case, Cario kind of grew different parts of you, right? And I think that sometimes is what we miss when we're in these relationships, is that when you're dating, when you're trying to get married, when you are in a marriage, you are two individuals that have these backgrounds, these personalities, you are who your identity, the things people have told you are, right? As a kid, I was told I was a good kid. I try not to use this term with my kids, because good is relative. You could be good to me and a monster to somebody, it doesn't matter. And then what is good changes according to age. I mean, if we're honest, we focus a lot on teen pregnancy, but then if somebody is older and they're not doing certain things, it's like, well, she's just kind of old and a prude, right? So depending, things kind of shift and change. And so we talk about, one of the things me and Jenny talked about was how your childhood plays a role in who you are as a woman or a man in a marriage. And it sounds like for you, Cario was kind of impactful with your faith. But how do you feel like your childhood, or even maybe his childhood, played a part in your initial phase of marriage?
Yeah, it played a huge part. And we had some other things that we both had to work through leading up to our marriage, and we chose to, this is totally not related, but maybe somehow, we chose to move up our wedding.
Mm.
It was supposed to be in November 2019, and we decided, just because of something just that did not make sense in the natural or to, worldly ideas, to get married in May instead of November. And it caused some sparks, looking back now. We had family that chose not to come, because they didn't understand it, in the natural.
Mhm.
They felt it was too soon. They knew stuff that Cario and I still needed to work through. And it was very alarming and very concerning. But then at the same time, in my heart of heart, and, that spirit being in us, with our faith, God kept saying, no, like, you need to get married now. Like, you
Just
need to
leap
get
on out
married.
there. Just step out there, do it. Just go ahead and
Right.
leap.
Y'all, yes, it's not going to make sense to a lot of people, but like, this is what I'm calling you to do. And with that, like, we, even in 2020, like, from the time we got married in 2019 to the spring of 2021, it was tough. It was tough. And a huge percent of that is because, I am so sorry, is because of both of our upbringings and just my not understanding of how, thinking I had that perfect childhood, and thinking it was all him. You're the one that's got some stuff going on, not Jeni.
Right? It's like when people tell you, and so this is a hint to family. When you keep telling a kid they're good, you wonder why people get into these marriages and then this fallout happens a year or two later. It's because we go into it with these identities, right? That we're not taught that you are a flawed human being, that you will make mistakes. I am a perfectionist. I wasn't really taught it's okay. And I don't think it was like told that it wasn't okay. It may be how I just perceive things, right? And nobody ever corrected me. My husband will correct me all the time with this, and our kids, like, dude, you're gonna fail. Like, my husband consistently repeats this thing. You're gonna fail. How fast will you fail and get back up? This wasn't a statement that I heard. You may hear the churchy for, oh, you fall down and get back up. Oh, we're all sinners. We're all sinners, but do we really act like we're all sinners? No. We act like there's this tier, right? My sin is only once a year. Your sin over there, you know what I mean? It's like this tiered kind. So you go in thinking, I only sin once a year, dude, and that's right before Passover when we sacrifice back to Jesus. And you know what I mean? We just have these thoughts in our head about what marriage and relationships are and who we are coming into them. We don't ever try to. I think sometimes in the beginning you're not aware of how imperfect you are. If you ever want to figure out how flawed you are, get married, because every flaw you have is going to start to be exposed, because this person who did not grow up with you, who has different parents than you, who has maybe the same values, but maybe implement them with a different perspective than you. People don't talk about that too. It could be the same thing. It's funny because I was asking my husband something about a particular position, and he said, no. It's one of those things that you can implement it individualistically. Yes, this is the title, but it just needs to get done. It's the title and done. And anything in the middle is up to the individual holding the title. There's no same way to do it. And I think that happens in marriage. No, we're gonna do it my way. No, there's more than one way to budget. There's more than one way to be stable in your finances, more than one way to have a job, right? We talk about entrepreneurship. Everybody doesn't have to or want to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs at some point need people to work with them, under them, for them, partner with them, right? And so a lot of times we say, well, everybody just needs to be entrepreneur. Everybody doesn't want that headache. I mean, it can be a headache. Everybody doesn't want that. And I think we go into these marriages with these perceptions that we have of ourselves. And then, it takes a little while when you're licking your wounds, because your spouse is like, I don't know who told you that, but no, that's not how this works.
Well, and I remember, we were working with someone earlier this year, and I was explaining a frustration, in our marriage, and he goes, "Well, like, is it gonna make or break whatever's going on?" And it was, I think it was like about, you know, the kid, it was something to do with cleaning. And I enjoy things, where they're supposed to be all the time, constantly. Um, and he's like, is it going to matter at the end of the day when you go to sleep? Like, is it going to matter? And it became a thing of, if it's that big of a deal to you, then take care of it. And I was like, how dare you? It does matter. No, like, I can't function if. And he goes, then take care of it. I was like,
you're like, no, do what I say.
Then when we started walking through everything that we have been recently with my health, and we've had to have a little bit of role reversal as we continue to take, put this whole thing of, and it may sound a little kind of goofy to some people, but self-partnering with your body, like the whole thing of, I can't take care of anyone else if, I don't take care of myself, but like not understanding what that means until what I had to go through this whole last year. And so, our things, the way that things used to be in the house have changed and shifted a little because of having to put my body first and make sure that I'm good before I worry about vacuuming or whatever, at that moment. And so then my husband had said something about whatever, and I was like, the whole concept of like, it'll be okay, it'll get done when it gets done, just because of how, what was important pre-August isn't as important. I mean, that housework is obviously still important, but the focus of, it's just shifted because of having to reshift or re-gear in life.
So it sounds like what was important is no longer as important as it used to be, And then let's
Mhm.
talk about a little bit about the role reversal of, well, if it's important to you, then you take care of it. Well, now you can't take care of it, right? So
Mhm.
now your husband has to step in. And if Jenny has these health issues, maybe she can't have things on the floor, because if she slips and hurts her back, then we're going to have bigger problems. So now these things have to be done in a certain way. I think that role reversal is always, so the deal is, I think about when I first had my son and I was in graduate school. Me and my husband actually were both in graduate school at the same time. And when I used to do these Augusty blended courses, and we'd have to spend these weekends at Augusty, Michael would have to spend the weekend hanging with 8-month-old Braden. And when I got married, I'm like, dude, you can't be giving him nothing but snacks. And I just had to get used to it. If he was with dad, they were going to eat junk food, right? They were going to feed stuffing full of formula, milk, juice, whatever. He may not see protein till 6 p.m. I just, because he was a new dad, I was a new mom. And he's like, dude, if you're in class, you don't be telling me how to do this. I do this how I get through it. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And so I think that goes into kind of what you were saying about, I like things in place. He's like, well, if it's such a big deal about things in place, you put it up. When it's really a mindset of being considerate of the other, right?
Mhm.
Well, no, I don't care if things are in place, but I could pick up behind myself, right? Or when the roles are reversed, you realize how much work. My mother used to say this, and it used to agitate me till I became a mom. I am not the maid. And I feel that in my bones at this point in my life, because it's like, do you guys understand that I'm not the maid? Do you understand that there's no maid that lives here? Do you understand that that's nobody's title and nobody is getting paid to pick up behind you? Like, is that a concept that is aware in this household? Because it's gonna get picked up, because eventually, like you said, I remember just thinking, things that stay out of place for so long, it's like they're just gonna keep walking by this. I mean, it's been cases they've tripped over stuff and they've left it right there.
Right.
Till I'm the one, and at this point we have a toddler, so I'll put it up on the shelf, she'll take it down. I'll put it
Right.
up, she'll take it down. I mean, it's just like a repetitive, like, why did you put it up? And I moved it. Okay, well, fine. Oh, no. I'm following you. What you doing? Because you're gonna put it up and I'm gonna take it down. So I think it is this awareness of the needs of someone else, right? The consideration of somebody's feelings. If it is important to me, can we compromise? Is it a compromise here? Is there a discussion of what our expectations are? There was a article I was reading that said the number one cause of discourse in marriage is unmet expectations. Now, I am a firm believer in communication, because I still believe, even though the person said unmet expectations, not communication, is not money. The statistics say in divorce is money. The number one cause of divorce is money. To me, it is the communications about these things. You can have unmet means that I have not done or said something that no one knows they exist. A lot of times, like, you can say it's unmet, but a lot of times it's unmet because you didn't open your mouth. It's sometimes not even the willingness of your partner. It is literally our unawareness to we have this feeling they should read our minds, right? Well, you know what? You should know if you love me, you should know what I'm thinking, right? And I'm like, that's not how this works. It's because people, every time my mother asks my son, what do you like? What's your favorite? Blah, 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 blah. It changes. People grow, people change. And so being aware of those changes, you're going to have to open your mouth. And so unmet expectations, we live in this place where we feel people should meet all these expectations we have, never once even asking them, what are your expectations? What does this really look like? And marriage forces you to ask those tough, hard questions. What does my life look like? And then what does our life look like together? What are we building? What is the vision for our life? What in this relationship and partnership, what are we trying to accomplish? You having a medical thing probably turned the relationship on a direction that it probably previously wasn't going, because you said, well, I was working, I was fine, I had learned all these things. Now I can't work outside the home.
Mhm.
Now I can't pick up that thing that's on the floor. Now, if my body says rest, I have to rest before I vacuum the floor, which for me is, my husband has literally said, so vacuuming at 8 a.m. is what we're doing now. And I have looked him dead in the eyes and said, you got a problem with it? And he has been like, I'm going back to work. I will put my headphones on, because it is literally in the busy life. It might be the only time I have to vacuum at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, just it's interesting, because a year or 2 or 3 ago, um, when we started going through this again back in August, it was like, but are you sure? Like, are you sure, like, this really is going on? It's just facing that, I think, initially fear for us and for him. And then, being like, well, why? Like, why are you so tired? And, like walking through it. And thankfully, we have our faith, and so every time there's like been a really big frustration on the medical end, like, my immediate response now is to go into prayer, instead of carrying it and holding it and all that. I'm just like, I'm okay with where we're at because of, God's already got it, and just understanding all of that. But, and it is frustrating because I can do stuff like in the moment, and then the next day my body will be just fatigued and done, and have to rest. And so a year ago, if something similar to this was happening, my husband, just because of where we've come from, it would just be hard to understand why my body would just be so exhausted all of a sudden sometimes. And so now there'll be times where he'll call me and he'll be at work or not at the house. And I've gone to the gym and my body's done. That's all we're doing today. It's like, whoop, okay, we did our deal. We're
Hard to
set.
stop there.
Right. Stop, done.
No warning.
He'll be like, have a good nap. And I'm like, I didn't say anything about taking a nap. And he goes, I can hear it in your voice. Go take a nap. Or, previously be like, what do you mean you take a nap? Why are you tired? All these things. And so it's just been really cool looking back, to where we've come because of working as a team against all, certain things with that.
Nice. So we're wrapping up, Jeni. All right, Jeni, drum roll. What is your confession?
I think, I don't even know. Like, I feel like we've confessed a few things here. I think the biggest confession is just being an entrepreneur, just pushing through life, when you need to, but being able to listen, internally to what you need.
Nice. So listening, the biggest confession is listening internally to what you need, right?
Mhm.
That is huge because a lot of times our bodies speak to us, but we are kind of, somebody was saying, as I was reading, we're back into this hustle culture.
Yeah.
We've coming out of a pandemic. We are working. People are working just as much as they're quitting at this point. They said people are quitting their jobs in record numbers, but also unemployment is low in record numbers. So I'm like, well, something's happening. They're working somewhere. So I think that's a very interesting dynamic that people are quitting their job in record numbers, but unemployment is low in record numbers. But I guess, now that this just really, like hit me just now, I guess when you lose 5 million people to COVID, there are openings. We don't think about how we've lost a lot of people to COVID. And so I guess there would be on the grim end some openings for jobs. At the same time, unemployment is dropping. So we find ourselves in this really ambiguous space, this open space we're trying to navigate. And I think listening to your body internally is a good way to wrap this up because our bodies speak to us. They tell us what are kind of going on. I even think about in relationships. I think about dating my husband and just telling God, hey, if you give me these 5 things in a husband, that's all I need. We make all these lists. You know what I mean? I've done it, didn't work. I've written them, tossed them out. You know what I mean? And then I heard this. Her name was Karen. I think it was Karen. I think me and Ashley decided her name was Karen. Her name may not be Karen, and she actually is Black. And I actually love this lady. She is phenomenal. If you ever meet her, and she said, you know what? When I told God I wanted my husband, I wanted these 2 things. She said, and I got way more than I could have bargained for in the husband that I got. And so I think that listening to our bodies internally, a lot of times they speak to us. God has wired us in this way that our bodies are kind of a warning signal. Sometimes it's hence fight, fight, flight, or freeze. You know what
Right.
I mean? We have this whole system in our brains that is triggered when we're in trouble. And I think listening to yourself internally, really pushing through and kind of blocking out some of the white noise. I think especially in marriage, blocking out that white noise is going to be pertinent to how you are successful in business and life and in your partnerships. All right, guys. Well, thank you for hanging with me and Jeni for the last half hour, probably on your lunch. I am so thankful to have and her business. She actually makes handmade cards. Is that right? That's what you do now, right? Because I've
Mhm.
definitely been saying that's what you do. They are the cutest things. And she makes them and people absolutely love them. So her name, Choose Joy and Smile. She is on all social media platforms. Tell us where we can find you, Jeni.
Instagram and Facebook, and website is everything is Choose Joy and Smile. The website is .com. That's where I'm at.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for having us, and we'll see you guys later next week. Bye.